When choosing a trademark name, make a short list of names for legal checks and avoid selecting names that describe your products and services. Such names are not legally effective because it's not possible to prevent competitors using words that describe what you do. For example, if you opted for a name like Fresh Pizzas for your pizza business, that's too descriptive. On the other hand, if you sold umbrellas and named your business Fresh Umbrellas, you'd have a distinctive name because other umbrella sellers don't need to use the word fresh to describe their umbrellas. Although descriptive names are easy for customers to relate to and are effective from a brand promotion perspective, they're best avoided. Examples of businesses that use such names are books.com, toys.com, agency.com, hotels.com. Such names give a short-term advantage because they inform consumers about the kind or quality or other characteristic of your product or service without needing to educate consumers. But they're ineffective from a trademark and brand protection perspective. Hence, you would need to rebrand later. If you didn't rebrand, you would lose market share because it would be impossible to prevent competitors using the same name to divert business away from you. Using descriptive names is like using a colander instead of a container for your brand's value. Your name is how people recognize your brand and tell you apart from other businesses. It captures the associations people form about your brand. It's the vehicle through which the brand is owned, sold, and promoted. The legal system requires businesses to use unique names and to avoid using names that are similar to their competitors. So before shortlisting names, check whether anyone is using the name you're interested in. When choosing a name, go back to your values and vision. Consider your strategic thinking for the business and your target market, if any. All of this should provide you with inspiration about the parameters for your name. If your focus is purely on identifying meaningful names that connect to customers, the risk is that you choose unsuitable names that you fall in love with and won't drop, even though the name may not be able to function as a trademark. When Tesco introduced the concept of loyalty cards, it spent considerable sums of money making the concept famous. However, because the name Clubcard wasn't sufficiently distinctive to function as a trademark, the competition was able to benefit from all the publicity and PR that Tesco had engaged in to explain what loyalty cards were by introducing their own loyalty card schemes using the name Clubcard. The name was a shortcut that explained the concept of loyalty cards that Tesco had popularized. Had Tesco not fallen in love with the name and switched to a name like Tesco Card or Lion, they would have created a barrier to entry with their name and benefited much more from the innovation they introduced. I'll be doing a video shortly to actually explain this Tesco Card or Lion name and which one is weak, which is strong. So do subscribe to make sure you receive that video when it's available. Ideas and business models are not protected by the law. Hence, competitors can freely copy your ideas and business models, including the idea of loyalty card schemes. So even though the idea was totally novel, Tesco failed to properly benefit from it because it failed to choose a strong trademarkable name. The only barrier to entry for an idea like Tesco's loyalty card scheme was the name. Not considering brand protection alongside brand creation is the reason Tesco made this fundamental error. Before I go on to discuss what I began in this video, namely types of names, including acronyms, suggestive names, common word trademarks, and made-up names, please do subscribe to the channel and like this video. It helps more than you know. People assume acronyms and initials are a good approach when they see that numerous household name brands use initials such as RAC, IBM, HSBC, BNI, GE, BT, and BA. But the reason these use initials is because they started out with descriptive names. Initials are arguably the least desirable type of name. Far better to opt for a made-up name that has pleasant connotations than to opt for meaningless initials that may be harder for people to remember. Not all acronyms are ownable either. The name is the first contact buyers have with your brand, and acronyms are rarely memorable or meaningful because they're totally meaningless to anyone but the person who came up with them. The well-known brands using initials have spent significant resources in marketing. That's why we recognize them. It's not because acronyms are a good approach to naming that we remember these brands. Now, suggestive names, if you're drawn to using a descriptive name, you might want to opt for a suggestive name instead. This falls within the third category of name I highlighted in this video. Names like Geek Squad, TechCrunch, or Toys R Us, for example, fall on the right side of the boundary between descriptive and distinctive. They avoid describing the product or service being sold under the mark. By including a generic component in the name and combining it with a word that you wouldn't expect to be joined with it, you create a name that's distinctive enough to register as a trademark. Such names are not as strong as names in bullets 4, 5, and 6 of this video. Hence, they may not always be suitable. That's mainly because you don't get a monopoly over the generic component of the name. For example, Oatly tried to stop Glebe Farms using the name PureOaty. As Oatly is a generic term, Glebe Farms was within its rights to base its name around the word Oatly, even though the name was similar to Oatly's name, and Oatly was a well-known brand. Oatly lost the case despite being a famous brand and as such having a greater scope of protection than lesser-known brands. Names like Oatly have a low level of distinctiveness because they're created around generic terms. Another disadvantage with suggestive names is that the choice may fall on the wrong side of the distinctive, non-distinctive boundary. Burger King is suggestive as it includes the generic word burger in the name, but proper names like McDonald's are much more distinctive. Dictionary word and invented names. Now, well-known examples of brands that have based their brand name on a real dictionary word include Apple, Shell, Amazon, Red Bull, Egg, Mango, Jaguar, Uber, Akimbo, and Virgin. These are all words that have an existing meaning. You could draw from a wide pool of names for this approach, including names of Greek gods, rarely used dictionary words, words that make a nice sound, and so on. You just need to avoid choosing a word that another business has already chosen as the basis of their brand, or at least accept that there is a risk that your use may be challenged down the line. Invented names that didn't exist before the brand used them are the most distinctive names. Examples include Microsoft, Starbucks, Exxon, and Google, which is a variation of the dictionary word Google. Apparently, the founders accidentally misspelt the word that they intended to use as their brand name. These brands are using words that have no intrinsic meaning apart from their brand, which makes their names excellent for brand protection purposes. They're often a good choice if you want to sell a wide range of goods and services internationally, and if the existence of a .com matters to you. As invented names are unique to the brands that use them, if third parties register similar domains, there are powerful remedies available to the brand owners to recover domains in a domain dispute. Third parties registering such domains are likely to be deemed to have done so in bad faith. The drawback to using invented names is that you need to inject meaning into the made-up word. It requires a greater marketing budget than using a word with pre-existing associations. However, it does come with a clean slate and is a better choice than acronyms. The names of the world's top 3 most valuable brands are all legally strong, with the strongest being Google, then Microsoft, and then Apple. Apple is highly distinctive of the brand's products and services because the name doesn't describe them. They're not selling apples. It's a word that has an existing meaning, so it's less strong than Google or Microsoft, which have no existing meaning. If someone registered a domain name featuring the word Apple, it would be more challenging to recover the domain name from them because they could give plausible reasons for wanting to incorporate Apple within their domain name. Names like Amazon are like Apple in that they have an existing meaning and are highly distinctive because they don't describe the company's products and services, but they're less strong because they have a known meaning. Subway is another example of a distinctive name with a known meaning. The brand has managed to get our collective attention. Sandwiches are a big category. There was no branded sandwich before Subway. The name Subway has got into everyone's heads. People know they can get sandwiches there. The Subway name is distinctive for the category, and that may well be a reason the brand has been able to stick in our minds. The company's name isn't something descriptive like Big Sandwich. As the brand equity attaches to the name, the ideal is to choose a strong name. The more distinctive a name you choose, the easier it is to register in all countries, and the broader the scope of protection it will enjoy when it comes to preventing another business from using a similar name. Proper names are a popular option for founders and tend to be excellent for legal strength, though that does depend on the name. They're effective because they can often convey the unique values or personality of the owner, and in that way can foster a powerful bond between the brand and the customer. Examples include Disney, Ford, Paul Smith, Calvin Klein, Jean-Paul Gaultier, Joe Malone, and many other brands using the names of the founder or designer or cook. Is it a good or bad idea for a business to name itself after the brand owner? The research supports both the view that your ultimate business will be worth more and the view that it will be worth less if you use your own name. Although this may feel inconclusive, what it means in practice is that you can be free of worry about the ultimate saleability of your business when it comes to naming your business after yourself, until and unless there is an overwhelming research to prove otherwise. Some people say that when you name your business after yourself, your company will seem more personal or familial. If personal service or a family feeling isn't an important brand attribute, it might not be the right approach to use your own name, according to some professionals. Fashion design labels invariably use the designer's own name, as do cooks, and many well-known household name brands in diverse industries use the names of their founders, including Dell, Tiffany, Cadbury, Mars, Schweppes, and Dyson, among many others. Often the name can be made more appropriate as a brand name by only using the surname element and adapting it to be easier to spell and pronounce. If a business is a success, then it can continue to thrive beyond the life of the founders. Examples of successful fashion labels that have survived include Yves Saint Laurent, Valentino, Dior, Prada, Chanel, Lanvin, and Louis Vuitton. Whether they're continued by the family or are purchased by external buyers, the fact that they endure is a sufficient sign that even a personal brand such as a designer's does not suffer on exit for having been named after the founder. Ultimately, the key to business continuity is having a thriving business, not whether the business was named after the founder or not. If the business cannot last, it will not carry on the founder's name regardless. Another factor to take into account when considering using your own name is the suitability of the brand name. The same considerations apply as for choosing names generally. The name should not be difficult to spell or pronounce and should not have anything intrinsically objectionable about it, nor should the name be a common one. That's because in some jurisdictions, such as USA, it's not possible to register a common name like Smith as a trademark unless and until the name acquires a secondary meaning and becomes distinctive through use. If you do have a common surname and want to use it, then create a new name incorporating your own name or elements of it so as to make it distinctive. Please remember to subscribe to the channel if you've had value from this video so far. A final consideration to bear in mind is how you will name future products and services you introduce. Some names lend themselves better to combining with descriptors. For example, when a brand like Virgin uses product and service names, they just add descriptors. So Virgin Media, Virgin Cola, Virgin Atlantic, etc. It's much easier to get name recognition than if the brand chooses a totally different name whenever it wants to extend its products and service offerings. However, I'm about to release a video where I'll go into more detail so you can know when it's essential to choose a totally new name rather than adding descriptors to your existing brand name. In terms of choosing a name that you would combine with descriptors, bear in mind that not all names lend themselves to combining with descriptors. The advantage of combining a brand name with descriptors like Virgin is that you minimize trademark and marketing costs down the line when you introduce new offerings. There's a naming checklist you can download. There's a link in the description, which I'd recommend as an aid to naming. And don't forget to keep track of your due diligence checks on a spreadsheet when you start brainstorming names, as explained in this video. That improves your chances of finding an available name. You might want to also do a quick exact same name search of the trademark registers, so if you find someone is using a name on Google, you can quickly establish whether they've registered it as a trademark or not. I hope this video has been useful in pointing you in the right direction to make your name selection. I'd love your feedback in the comments.